Hello, and thank you for joining us again. I'm Todd Flora, publisher of Westside Voice, and I'm fortunate to be joined today by Katy Yaroslavsky, a candidate for Los Angeles City Council in Council District 5. Katy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. Let's dive right into it. Tell me a little bit about your career and how it's prepared you to serve on the LA City Council.
Yeah, so I spent the last 6.5 years working for LA County Supervisor Sheila Kuehl as a senior policy advisor on both climate and sustainability, and also arts and the creative economy, and served as our public health deputy for the initial months of COVID. And I think that regional experience is really important coming into the city council. So many of the challenges we're facing as a city of Los Angeles are actually regional problems that are going to require regional solutions, whether it's homelessness, public safety, our environment. And so I'll bring that regional perspective and those relationships and an understanding of collaboration to the city council. There's also a lot of money at the county, and so I'll bring that as well. And then before that, I was in the private sector for a decade. I started off my career after going to Berkeley and UCLA for law school. I started off as a land use attorney and did that for a few years, which is helpful knowledge to have coming into this job. And then I became the general counsel of a climate change nonprofit locally. And so that private sector experience, I think, is also really important. I understand how important it is that the private sector is part of the conversation, part of the solution, as we make progress on a whole bunch of stuff at the city.
Yeah. Land use is a lot of what the city council and the city does. Yeah, that's right. Given your expertise with climate issues, I'm going to move one of my questions up for you. And that is, how much can a council member do on climate? And do you have any particular ideas on climate action for Council District 5?
Yeah, so this is, I love this question, and we only have a certain amount of time for all of these questions, but I could easily spend all of the time talking about this one. As an environmental attorney and policymaker, I think one of the most important issues we're facing as a city, as a planet, is making meaningful progress on climate action, making LA more climate resilient. So as it gets warmer, we're prepared for it. And there's a whole bunch the city council can do, right? So smarter land use planning, putting the housing near our job centers, near transportation. So we have the metro coming through the 5th district for the first time. We're gonna have mass transit on the west side in more than a generation. And we can make huge strides on reducing our greenhouse gases impacts through getting people out of their cars, right? So building out that bike infrastructure, a connected, protected network of bike lanes that get people where they need to go safely, building out an urban, healthy and vibrant urban forest, urban tree canopy is really important. First mile, last mile, and all these metro stations is going to be really important too. Making sure people feel safe taking public transportation. And then beyond just sort of smarter land use planning, we oversee DWP, the largest municipal utility in the United States. And as it gets hotter with climate change, we need to make sure we have enough water. And so that's going to require us to build out our local water supplies, transition to 100% renewable power. And I have deep experience on both of these things. I helped create the Clean Power Alliance at the county, which is a community choice energy program. It's the largest community choice energy program in the country, with more 100% renewable power customers than any other utility in the United States. Yeah. And created LA County's first sustainability office, and then led the development of Measure W, the Safe Clean Water program, which is providing hundreds of millions of dollars every year in perpetuity to build new parks and open space. But what really is the primary motivator of W is to create new local water supplies and clean our water so that even as it gets warmer and those water supplies we've been reliant on from far away literally dry up, we'll have enough water. And so these are all things that I'm going to be laser focused on the council.
Yeah, not to be too macabre, but they're finding bodies in some of these reservoirs in Arizona because the water level is so low.
The levels are so low. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that.
Dire.
Okay, moving back, and I asked this question of your challenger as well. Looking back at the last several council members, although in your case, besides the obvious fact that you're a woman, how will you be different than council members like Mike Fuhrer, Jack Weiss, Paul Koretz, and even your father-in-law?
Yeah, so I think the fact that I am a woman is important. The first and last time a woman held the seat was 1965 when Roz Wyman was the council member.
Oh, wow.
And I think women bring different perspectives to the table, different priorities. We govern differently. I'm a very collaborative person. I don't care who gets the credit. I'm going to be focused on things like universal preschool, making sure that we're creating pipelines into good paying careers for women, because so many of our poorest households are headed by women. And so creating those pipelines, continuing to create those pipelines, I've already been doing that work at the county, is going to be a priority at the city as well. So really thinking about how our laws and policies are impacting families is going to be really important. And then just my background, it's an interesting background in the sense that I spent both significant time in the private and public sectors, and will bring both of those to bear on the city council. And I really do think that that regional approach to policymaking and a really solid grounding in climate and sustainability, given, I mean, record heat waves and drought, and it's really important to have strong, competent voices on the council who are going to put this issue front and center.
Okay, very good. Now, turning to housing, would you identify as an abundant housing advocate, or do you favor a more targeted approach to affordability?
Yeah, I think there's no question that we need more housing at all levels of affordability, but particularly on the West Side and Council District 5, where we have so many of the job centers. It's the second largest job center outside of downtown LA, right? We have Century City, Cedars, UCLA. And most of the people who work there can't afford to live anywhere near there. And so I think we have a real opportunity and obligation to focus, as a council member, my time is going to be focused mostly on how we build out more affordable workforce housing near those job centers. And because I have a land use background, because I've worked in this space in the past, I understand how we can collaborate and bring resources from the county, the state, and the feds to the table to really prioritize that kind of housing. The market's going to take care of the market rate stuff. I think we really need to be focused on, lower income housing.
Yeah, okay. Now, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or RHNA, numbers are astronomically higher than in previous cycles. And some consider the dramatic increase of what's being asked to be almost like an unfunded mandate. Do you feel the state has to bear more of the cost of ensuring at least the affordable units get built, maybe put some more money into it? Or is it really up to the cities to make up for lost time and previous cycles that may have been too low?
I think our housing crisis is not only something that the state should be focused on and more committed to helping us solve, but the federal government as well. The second largest city in the United States, affordability is at crisis levels. And it's really incumbent upon local leadership to be focused up. So when I think about leveraging and when I think about solving this, I'm really thinking about two things. I'm thinking about leveraging and collaboration. And if you think about the budgets of local government all the way up to the feds, the budgets go like an inverse pyramid, right? Our budget is a fraction of the county's budget, which is a fraction of the state's budget, was a fraction of the federal budget. So there's no way we're going to fix this really deep entrenched problem on our own, even if we partner with the county. The state has to be making significant, meaningful, long-term sustained investments, not only in the housing side, but also in the supportive services side, making sure we have the resources to be building more mental health beds, addiction beds. And of course, the federal government's going to have to play a big role too. We can't solve this on our own. And so an effective local council member, I think one of the ways we can be most effective is by really banging on the doors and being strategic about how we lobby the state and federal governments to bring resources to LA.
Okay, thank you. Do you support Ordinance 4118 and its recent expansion to schools and daycare centers of a 500-foot barrier for camping?
So that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So 4118 basically lists a bunch of places where unhoused people can't sleep and store their stuff. And I think as we apply 4118, which I think can be a tool in the toolkit, it's not going to solve homelessness on its own. But when we pair 4118 enforcement with deep street engagement and offering people housing and services, so that we're not just moving them 500 feet down the way where they become a different neighborhood's problem or a different council member's problem, but when we're actually connecting people as we move them into housing and services, even if it's interim housing, it gives us a chance to connect them. It gives us a little time to make sure we're getting them into something more permanent. I think that's how we enforce 4118. So I support 4118, being used as part of a street engagement strategy, connect people to housing and services, and certainly in connection with, there should be no encampments in front of schools. There should be encampments anywhere.
I should have disclosed, as I did with your opponent, that I'm personally opposed to it. I think it just shuffles people around. But you think it can be a tool to leading people to services as he does?
Well, I think that you know, I've had some interesting conversations with current council members, and each of them thinks of it, uses it slightly differently. So Councilor De Leon uses it not to encourage people to take the housing as sort of like a last ditch thing to push them in, but he uses it to get the city and the bureaucracy focused on making sure the housing is available. So if there's a deadline, because you have a certain number of days to move people under 4118, then it gets the bureaucracy focused on getting either tiny homes ready, you know, cutting through the red tape of the permitting process. He was told that, you know, the tiny homes village that he eventually got done in 3 months, it was going to take 12 months. He used 4118 and got them to sort of bring renewed energy to it. So I don't want to say that it's
interesting.
I think it can be used strategically if it's done with intention and an understanding of its limitations. But it's not going to be. It's not the big solution that, say, my opponent thinks it is. It's one tool that can be used in a nuanced, thoughtful way, I think.
Okay, that's an interesting take from you and the Councilmember De Leon, and I appreciate your clarification. What is your position on the size and the duties of the LAPD and law enforcement in general?
Yeah, so I think LAPD needs to be focused on crime prevention, solving crimes, doing community policing, building relationships in neighborhoods. Right now, they're incredibly a lot of their time and energy is focused on homelessness response, non-emergency mental health calls, and they're not the right people to be doing that work. And I think there's a general recognition, not only amongst advocates, but amongst the LAPD, that they're not the right people to do that work. And so I think we need to, we've been doing some pilots and, you know, trying things out. We should just shift that work over. And, you know, sometimes you need a police officer there if people get violent or something, but in the vast majority of instances, you need social workers and mental health professionals. And I understand that it's been very hard to hire those people because they don't get paid very well, and there's high burnout and turnover. So I think we really need to focus resources on getting those folks responding to that subset of what right now is on LAPD's plate. And then I think, look, after we've done that, after we have the right people responding to the right calls, then we can see what that budget should look like. I think that's a great time to do an audit and get a better sense of you know, the right number of police officers, given that we've shifted that work away from them, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, what the right number is. I sort of leave that to the audit and professionals to help us figure out as policymakers.
Yeah, I believe Congresswoman Bass has said there are something like perhaps more than 400 people working desk and administrative jobs that are sworn officers that should be out there solving crimes. So
yeah, I think that there's a real need to look at who's doing what and if it's the right people doing the right job. And you know, looking forward to diving into that with her.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Westwood Village, what is it going to take to be revitalized, and how long do you think it will take for Westwood Village and perhaps other popular business centers of activity?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and you know, I think there's no one thing. If there's one thing, it's leadership, and one of the jobs of a council member is to be a convener and to bring together all the groups that are implicated by a challenge. And I think Westwood is in need of some convenings and sort of coming together, bringing the property owners together, bringing together UCLA, the neighborhoods that surround UCLA. And really doing the visioning work that an update to the community plan will warrants. And you know, the specific plan, there's been some tweaks to it. That's great. And I think we need to think about what uses are needed there. I think we need more housing in Westwood. I went to UCLA for law school. I lived in Westwood on Wilshire Boulevard, and I'm still paying off my law school loans. And it's not the tuition side; it's the housing piece. You know, and I had a roommate, and this was almost 20 years ago, and I'm still paying off my loans. And so I think we revitalize it by, this is not rocket science. We need housing near UCLA. We've got what Metro coming through, so there's a huge opportunity there. I think that will help with revitalization. But there's a lot of properties that are owned by, family trusts where there's 20, 30 people who have to weigh in. And I
Yeah.
think it's going to be the job of the council member's office to start wrangling cats and bringing people together. And if we need to bang some heads together, figure out what the vision for Westwood's going to be and then build it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's turn to the campaign, shall we? Most importantly, we should identify the fact that you came pretty close to 50% +1 in the primary. So how are you going to win this time around? How are you going to avoid maybe complacency, setting in? And you can also use this time to perhaps point out some of your key endorsements and plug a website.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I did come very close to winning it outright. There were 4 of us in the primary. I earned 49% of the vote. Second highest vote getter earned 29%. And then the third and fourth vote getters each got around 10%. And both Scott Epstein and Jimmy Biblars, who came in third and fourth, have endorsed me and are supporting me and helping connect their supporters with me. I think turnout's going to be higher in November, and I think it'll favor me. I think the reason why I did so well in the primary is because my priorities and message and experience and temperament resonated with voters. I think voters are looking for people of substance who have track records of problem solving. And I can point to my record of doing good work at the county and in the private sector. And that experience is directly relevant to the job of being a council member. So I'm ready to step in and do the job. And I think having the endorsement of organizations like Planned Parenthood, the Sierra Club, the LA Times, Congresswoman Karen Bass, State Senator Comlager, the Labor Fed, LA County Democratic Party. These are trusted people and organizations. And when you're sort of a low or medium information voter, or even a high information voter, you sort of look to see who's supporting a candidate to get a sense of whether or not you're kind of a candidate. And I think that combination of experience and the endorsements is why I did so well and why I will continue to do well. But I'm not taking anything for granted. I can't take anything for granted. I still have a bunch of money I need to raise, and I'm going to run just as hard, if not harder, than I did in the primary. So I'm out knocking on doors, fundraising, call time this morning. I'm not taking anything for granted. I will earn this election.
I did see that Congresswoman Bass had endorsed your campaign, and I did find that interesting. I don't know if she's weighed in on any other of the council district races, but it's mostly Democrats running against Democrats. And so I thought it was pretty kind of made a statement that she stepped out to endorse you.
Yeah, I'm really incredibly grateful for her support. She's someone I respect mightily. And she was one of my earliest endorsers. And so it may have come before she decided to run. I think sometimes when folks are running for office, they're a little reticent about endorsing in other races. But I got her support early. So yeah. I lucked out.
Very good. Well, you answered my question about other primary opponents that didn't make the runoff endorsing you. So let me ask you this. How would you characterize your opponent? And do you even have compliments to pay him?
Yeah, so Sam and I have been part of more than 30 candidate forums over the last year and a half. So we've gotten a chance to at least know each other's positions on things. I'll say that Sam is smart and he's got a lot of energy, and those are 2 compliments. Okay,
you only paid him compliments, so that's interesting. Very good. All right, well, Katy, the last time I have is really for you. Maybe there's something I didn't ask about but should have that you'd like to address. You can also use this time, because we've got several minutes left, to make kind of a closing case for yourself. And you still could mention that website if you want to.
Oh, yeah. So the website, if you're interested in learning more or getting involved, is katyforla.com, katyforla.com. We're going to be out knocking on doors between now and November 8th. So if you're interested in joining us, I would love to have you. And I'll close by saying, first of all, thank you so much, Todd, for this opportunity. It was a pleasure. I'm looking
Thank you.
forward to more of this. And congratulations on launching. It's no small feat in COVID to launch a new enterprise like this. It's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, so look, I'm proud of my track record of getting big things done in the public sector. We talked a little bit about some of those. I understand that so many of the challenges we're facing as a city are regional challenges. They're intersectional, right? Homelessness, public health, our economy, public safety. These are all complicated challenges that are going to require nuanced solutions. And having people who know how to work across jurisdictions, who understand and know where the money is and how to effectively leverage it is going to be really important. And I'm ready to start doing this work on day one. I know how to do the work because I've already been doing it. I'm good at it. And I'm ready to step in and lead, not just on behalf of Council District 5, but on behalf of all Angelenos. It's too hard to live in LA right now. It shouldn't be this hard. And I think we need people who are laser focused on making it easier, creating more affordable housing at price points people can afford, cleaner air, building out a bike infrastructure, cleaner, safe parks, more parks. These are all priorities of mine, and I know how to do the work. I've led successful iterative stakeholder processes for nearly 2 decades, and I'm committed to using my office to create an opportunity and a space for really important conversations that might not be happening. And I'm going to be laser focused on strategic problem solving. I see government as primarily being a mechanism for problem solving. None of the challenges we're facing as a city are going to be easy to solve. All the easy stuff has been done, but they're not impossible. And I wouldn't be running if I thought any of this was impossible. And when we have proven collaborators in elected leadership positions who don't care who gets the credit, who aren't thinking about the next thing that they're running for, but are using the power of the office to actually do the work that they were elected to do, we can get a lot of really good stuff done. I'm looking forward to getting to work on behalf of and in partnership with the communities of CD5 later this year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but everything worth doing is hard. So like I said, please check out the website at katyforla.com to learn more, to get involved. I'd love to have you join us. And I'm really grateful, Todd, for this opportunity. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm very grateful for your stepping up and joining me, and I want to wish you the best of luck going forward, okay?
Thank you.
She's Katy Yaroslavsky, candidate for Council District 5 in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you again for joining me today.
Thanks, Todd.
Bye now.